click this little box here. So electricity is not light. It's not motion. It's not sound. Knocking things down tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not in the center. Yeah.
Okay. So without electricity, the bulb cannot shine, the fan cannot turn, the stereo cannot sing. But electricity is not light, not motion, not sound. It's the contact that causes the bulb to shine, the fan to turn, and the stereo to sing. Likewise, the senses cannot perceive, the mind cannot feel, the intellect cannot think. Nothing in this world can move, can do anything without the touch of the life principle. Yet that Brahman, which we experience as self, I am Atma Brahma, is never touched or altered by that contact. The practice here is we have to keep checking out myself as I go through the day. Oh, this wonderful event, did that change me? Nope, I'm still witnessing consciousness. Terrible event happens. Did that change me? No. I'm still witnessing consciousness. And the material cause of the phenomenal world is consciousness itself. This becomes easy to understand if you go to the dream state. All the people, places, things, and situations in the dream are not material. They are nothing but my mind appearing as name and form. This is no different. So we have another language, Sa Guna Brahman, Brahman with qualities. Then we have Nir Guna Brahman, the self. Brahman without qualities. All right, Deepaji, what shloka are we on tonight?
I've got 10 marked in my book.
All right, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, so number 10, please.
Bijam mam sarva bhutanam viddhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatasmi tejas tejasvinahamam. Know me, O Partha, as the eternal seed of all beings. I am the intelligence of the intelligent, the splendor of the splendid. Things and beings am I.
So here he's used the word bija. And last week we brought out the Shiva Lingam, where you have the lingam, which is a penis, and then we have the yoni, which is a vagina, and the two are always together. So here, when he says, bija, I am the seed, it has this idea that Shiva is ever wedded to his Shakti. Whenever you go to Indian temples, you will frequently see that the deities are in pairs. There's a Deva and a Devi. Krishna, Radha. Rama, Sita. Shiva, Parvati. Always this principle. The male deity symbolizing pure awareness. The female being the womb, meaning Shakti, that gets impregnated by consciousness and becomes the potentiality for all name and form. And Maya, this Shakti, this Jagat is co-eternal with the self. Nirguna Brahman is Kutusta, stable, still, it never moves. And the lower Prakriti, always in motion, going through time and space in a circular way. Any thoughts on this? Then he begins to give us an idea of where this essence of everything is nothing but Brahman. So he's the splendor of the splendid, the whatever something is, its essence is in fact Brahman. Next verse.
You're muted.
Yeah, I just unmuted myself, sorry. Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. Of the strong, I am the strength, devoid of desire and attachment, and in all beings, I am the desire, unopposed to dharma, O best among the Bharatas.
So what he's indicating here is in the world of name and form, there is a divine intelligence that's moving through everything. Swamiji used to thunder, it's a cosmos, not a chaos. So when everything is acting according to its dharma, that's part of a divine plan, a divine intelligence. Now, we human beings, because of spiritual ignorance, can temporarily deviate from our swadharma, what we've been created or manifested to be. The more we deviate from that, the more painful it is. And if you do it long enough, your manifestation just goes out of existence. If you're filled with hatred, filled with resentment, filled with anxiety, eventually you're going to make yourself really sick and you die. But what he's saying here is the way we're built, if we choose to silence those screaming voices and live by this deep intuition. Paradox is life starts to work for us in a wonderful way. You've heard me share this maxim that I like. We live in a beneficent universe that conspires for our good if we let it. My friend Puneet sent me this video of this woman. I can't remember her name. It's Kitty something or other. Can't tell whether she's English. She might be English or American. But anyway, her mother was a disciple of Ramana Maharshi. So she was there when she was like 4, 5, 6, 7, as a young child. just all these marvelous stories of what happened around Bhagawan. How the animals would come to him. And that when he would go into meditation or samadhi, there was this thunderous silence. Even the monkeys would come to the windows to show Bhagawan their babies. A peacock came in and actually did a dance for him. And of course, this incredible relationship with Lakshmi, the cow. The squirrels would come and eat out of his hand. Why? Because there was so little or no veil or personality there. Only this Shakti would come through. Now, a person like Ramana Maharshi is not the great exception. He is the great example. He is showing us what it is to be truly human, which is to be truly divine. The more we let go of that willfulness, that fear-driven stuff, and surrender into the flow, great and marvelous things can happen. Think on this. Think on this. So it doesn't here mean that, okay, if you read Veda and you behave in the correct way, then Krishna is there. And if you behave in the wrong way, Krishna's not there. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that this equipment, as it were, becomes the hand of God to the degree that as egos, we disappear. Just put this on the shelf. Next verse.
ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तास्मसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि. Whatever beings and objects that are pure, active and inert, know them to proceed from me. Yet I am not in them, they are in me.
Yes. So here he's talking about the three gunas. Those that are clear, the qualities of a sattvic person is self-knowledge, contentment, happiness. Qualities of a rajasic person is their agenda. Go get it. Ambition. And then the tamasic person, they're depressed, deluded, victims of the world. But here Krishna says, know them all to proceed from me. So, if you have a dream, and it's a good dream, a beneficent dream, it's just wonderful and gorgeous and full of joy, is it more real than a nightmare? both proceed from you as an individual. Now, then Krishna goes on to contradict himself. A few verses ago, he said, all this is strung on me like jewels on a thread. I am in them. Now he says, well, actually, I'm not in them. They are in me. Let's wait a bit. Motorcycles go by. What does he mean by this? So here's a very interesting question. Do you incarnate into a dream? So I run around in the waking state. It seems like I am in my body. I have taken birth in my body. When I die, the body will die, and maybe I'll have another incarnation. But do I incarnate into a dream? Am I in the dream, or is the dream in me? Well, obviously, it feels like I'm in the dream. It feels like I'm in the dream body, just like it feels like I'm in this body. But upon awakening, I see, well, actually, no. I am not in the dream. The dream is in me. So all this occurs in consciousness, made up of consciousness. Consciousness forks into subject object. We have a sentient phase, always experienced as I. And then we have an inert phase, meaning anything that is phenomenal. With reference to me, it is not sentient. Can one thought see another thought? Does your nose know your toes? I know them all. So the meditation that's implied here, not only do we want to do the subject-object discrimination, I am not the body, I am not the prana, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the ego sense, I am not the bliss sheath of pure ignorance, I am the witnessing consciousness. Now, what is this world? We, in some scriptures, have called it an Atma, not self. But we fooled you. It actually is the self too. Consciousness appearing as name and form. All is Maya, all is bliss. So we dial down our reactivity to the world. We let go of our attachment, our expectation. Now, this doesn't mean to behave in an inappropriate way. If someone has tragedy in their life, you display compassion. Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do? Inside, you know. Sarvamaya, Sarvamana. All is Maya. All is bliss. I am not in them. They are in me. Next verse.
त्रिभिर्गुणमये भारवे रेभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम्. Deluded by these natures, states or things, composed of the three gunas of Prakriti, all the world knows me not as immutable and distinct from them.
So, deluded by spiritual ignorance, deluded by, personally, we call it avidya, macrocosmically refer to it as Maya. The result of this is I do not know who I am. Again, when Krishna says they do not know me, it means they do not know their own self. This is the most curious thing. Actually, nobody lacks for the experience of the self. And everybody knows the self. If you think you're not realized, put that on the shelf and answer this question. Are you you? Do you exist? What's your life like? Oh, Jim, it's so miserable. Oh, it's just terrible. If only you knew. I'm so sorry. Do you know your misery? Oh, yes, I know my misery. So the person thunders, I am. I know. Do you think you don't exist? Oh, yes, my existence is terrible. Oh, so you exist, yes. And you're aware of all this misery? Oh, yes. I am. I shine. I know. But in the subtle intellect, technically it happens in what we call the Vijnanamaya Kosha, intellectual sheath. There exists what we call avarana shakti, veiling power. So in the mind we can say, I do not know intellectually as a direct experience that I am the self, ignorant of it. And then there's Vikshepa Shakti, projecting power. I subsequently think I'm the body. There is no other bondage than the deeply rooted conviction in the mind that I'm bound. And it's like a hypnotic trance. But it's not real. Just like when you are sound asleep and dreaming, you do not know that you are the waker. You do not know what your mind is projecting as a dream. So if you close your eyes for a moment and visualize an elephant, see your big elephant. Open your eyes. You know that that elephant is imagination. It's a mental picture. What's the difference between that imagined elephant and when you have an elephant in your dream?
The dream seems more real.
Hmm?
The dream seems more real.
First, I do not know I am the waker having an imagination. Avarana Shakti, we call it on an individual basis going to sleep. Then, when the mind projects the imagination, I think it's real. Vikshepa Shakti. That's our condition in the ordinary person's waking state. Now, you may come into class tonight and you may think, I am Susali or I am Kali Om. But if you just tune up the mind, listen to the traffic and introvert your attention and notice who hears the traffic. See, there's nobody there. It's just being heard. Where did Susali go? Where did Kali go? So because of Maya, which is comprised of the three gunas, the tamasic guna has as its power veiling power. I do not know. The rajasic power, I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more better, different. But we also have sattva. Oh, I am that partless brother. Why did I think I was so deluded? Rare is it that we get pure sattva. Most of the time it's mixed. We still have these vestiges of ego. So even though I know everything, I know the past, I know the present, I will know the future, I know the waking state, I know the deep sleep state, I know the dream state, I know a good day, I know a bad day. I am omniscient. I am the knower of everything. Doesn't mean I have an infinite number of facts that I'm aware of. It means whatever is known, I illuminate. But if the mind is covered by ignorance, I have superimposition. And I think I'm the body, or the body plus the person. Yet, even in the midst of ignorance, I, in the midst of you, am mighty, as the Bible says. It's always there. Always there. Where have you not you? Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Devi yesha gunamayi Mammaya duratyaya Mameva ye prapadyante Maya metam tarantite. Verily, this divine illusion of mine, made up of gunas, caused by the qualities, is difficult to cross over. Those who take refuge in me, they alone cross over this illusion.
So, this illusion, this Maya, this spiritual ignorance is difficult to cross over. Is it impossible? No, it is possible. And here Krishna gives us the one way to cross over. So we have the mountain of truth. There are many paths up the mountain of truth. Advaita Vedanta, Sufism, Buddhism, mystical Christianity, Kriya Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, all these various paths, they're all valid. You get to the top. And at the top of the mountain, there's only one temple of truth. And it only has one door. And that door is Aham. I. Again, let's review the three levels at which Krishna is teaching. Basic bottom level, Dharma Shastra, tells us what to do. Second level, when we're identified with Arjuna, the universal yogi, that's basically subtle body, qualities of head and heart that we need to accomplish. But when Krishna talks about himself, it's not some God out there. He means the self, yourself. So here, in order to cross over Maya, the only way is find out who you are. So, the various rites to purify the equipment are different. You could do karma yoga, you could do bhakti yoga, you could do raja yoga. Is that outside?
Yeah.
It's noisy tonight. You can go on pilgrimages, you can have a pure diet. All these things that various religions enjoin us to do. You can do the rosary. You can fast during Lent or Ramadan. Frequently, I will use the example of like cutting a ripe tomato. If you have a nice big vine ripened tomato that's really ripe, you have a dull knife and you try to slice the tomato, what happens? Squish. So the preparatory exercise, you got to sharpen the knife. But knife sharpening in and of itself does not slice the tomato. So the karma yoga, the bhakti yoga, the asana, the pranayama, all the things we do are knife sharpening. They are preparatory till the mind is sharpened and clear. Then what do? What is the antidote for ignorance?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, not action. So we have to investigate. Who am I? What is my essential nature? In a mind made very subtle, very quiet, I investigate. Neti, neti, not this, not this. Then when you know yourself, you know Krishna. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Namam dushkrit namam dushkritino mudha prapatyante naradhama mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamashrita. The evildoers, the deluded, the lowest of men, do not seek me. They whose discrimination has been destroyed by their own delusions, follow the ways of the demons.
So demons are usually classified into two categories, the Rakshasas and the Asuras. Generally, the Rakshasas are greedy. Gimme, 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 gimme. The Asuras are angry. So here he's talking about the Asuras. So when he says the lowest of men, should we include women here? The lowest of people who follow the addictive path of the world, which we call Bhoga. 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 A bhogi wants to be happy, but they think the way to be happy is to satisfy as many desires as possible. And when we indiscriminately act in the world as a bogey, when we satisfy these desires, or the flip side, we have an experience that makes us terribly unhappy, and we attribute joy-giving qualities or misery-producing qualities to the world, it leaves an impression in the unconscious, which we call a vasana. And the great power of a vasana is a varana shakti. It veils our self-nature. So if you ever had the experience, you're sitting in meditation and you're just restless, you can't sit still and your mind is noisy and you just want to get up and do something, who's had that experience? That is vasana pressure, where it comes from. It's the inevitable result of previously performed egocentric actions. That's all it is. And if we want to fix that feeling, eat at it, drink at it, sex at it, shop at it, get angry at it, dominate people at it. Do something to try to get away from that discomfort. We just keep thickening and thickening and thickening that vasana covering. And our lives become more and more miserable. And in that state, the ignorance tells me I'm in the wrong place. I have to move to this place or that place. I'm with the wrong person. I've got to get rid of this partner and get another. I'm in the wrong job. I need to get rid of this job and get another job. I'm in the wrong house. I need to get rid of this house and go to this house. I'm in the wrong room in the house. I need to move from this room to another. My children aren't behaving. They need to do this instead of that. I'll be happy when. It'll be better if. More, better, different. Sound familiar?
Yes.
That is the fruit of ignorance. And if we go down that road long enough, it gets worse and worse and worse. Any of us who have ever had to struggle with addiction know what I'm talking about. And the root of it is a misapprehension of reality caused by my spiritual ignorance. And just like the nightmare, it seems so real. Any thoughts on this?
Hey, Jim, this is Katie. Good evening.
Hi, Katie. Good evening.
Hey, this is really hitting home for me. Thank you for discussing this. I'm curious. I've been in some 12-step programs, and if one is battling addiction, then one might call a sponsor in a moment of about to go down that road, or call someone in the program, or pick up the big book. And for something like, I compulsively think I should move, compulsively freak out about my financial condition, when both are totally fine. And it's exactly what you describe in terms of it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so with some of those, what might your guidance be in terms of, okay, I'm catching myself in this moment. I'm tempted to go down this road, but here's my opposite behavior that I'm going to do instead.
All right. I'm going to take us back to Bill Wilson's big book. In the 12-step program you're familiar with, have you looked at the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous?
I've been in mostly others 12 steps, but I'm totally familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay. What many people don't want to admit, Bill says if you're an alcoholic, you have a condition in the body such that once you start to drink, you can't stop. The craving. You also are crazy, meaning you have no defense against the thought of the first drink. But it could be the first drug, it could be the first donut, it can be the first, jonesing for a partner, whatever it is. Bill's solution, Katie, is we're screwed until we have a spiritual experience. It's not sponsors, it's not telephone calls. That may kind of take a little bit of the edge off. But what Bill says in the big book is our sobriety is contingent on the maintenance of a fit spiritual condition. Now, has this been told to you in your 12-step work?
For sure. Definitely.
That's it.
Hmm.
And Vedanta yoga says exactly the same thing.
Hmm.
So when my mind says, I want this, I want that, what we want to do is say, what I really want is you, Krishna.
Hmm.
Om Namah Shivaya. Lord Jai Shri Hanuman. Lord Jesus Christ. Doesn't matter how you turn your mind to the infinite. Steps 4 through 9 are about becoming aware of first, and then beginning to get rid of what in the Raja Yoga tradition they call kleshas. Isn't that the right word, Kali?
Yes.
Yes. I usually use the word dosha, which means defect. It's my character defects that keep me from this spiritual experience. That's what I got to deal with. Now, one of the tools we have is if it's between your ears, I wanna go eat donuts. I wanna go eat donuts. I wanna go eat donuts. If you share this with someone else, I'm having a crazy idea. I really don't want to go eat donuts. I know this is going to start me binging, but it feels like I want to go eat a donut. Get it from between your ears, out of your mouth, share it with another addict, or put it on a piece of paper. But when you do steps 6 and 7, are you familiar with those?
Yeah, I'm on step 6 in Codependence Anonymous.
Okay.
Right?
Step 6 says, became entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. It does not say, became entirely ready to work like hell to fix myself.
Hmm.
Nor does it say, became entirely ready to make my sponsor my higher power. Sponsor carries the message. That's all the sponsor does. And then what do we do in step 7? It's another confrontation with powerlessness. My creator, I am now willing for you to have all of me, good and bad. Wonderful prayer. Wonderful prayer. Another prayer of deep surrender. Give up dealing with the human condition. Go to God. Or in a non-dual frame, Atmaramana. Revel in your own self-nature. Is that helpful?
Yes. Thank you, Jim. Super great timing.
No. Anytime you want to draw parallels with program, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because I love it. I love the program. And it's deep spirituality for those who have the eyes to see. It really is. I heard someone at a meeting say, oh, AA is spiritual kindergarten. I'm doing something else now that's more sophisticated. No. Everything you really need if you dive deep into what it really says. I think it's a divinely revealed work. And as is frequently the case, Bill Wilson was a jerk. And God used the most flawed among us to bring forth something incredibly valuable.
Interesting. Nice. Thank you, Jim.
Great question. Great question. Anybody else wanna expand on that? Too frequently, because it's not fashionable anymore. People think that 12-step programs are a psychological process, and they are not. It is a spiritual psychology. It doesn't mean there's not psychology in it. The key to the program, I can't, God can, I think I'll let him. That's it. That's the program in a nutshell. And it's good yoga. When the mind can abide in the self, we talked about this crossing beyond illusion, an enormous amount of energy, what we call Shakti, is released. And the mind is transformed, it's healed. It's been my experience. Swamiji used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. Great work. Great question. Thank you. Anybody else have questions about that? How are we doing that? Oh, we have plenty of time. All right, next verse.
Chaturveda. Sorry.
We can't hear you. Start again and a little bit louder for me.
Sure. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukrutinojuna arto jigyarsutharthi jnani cha bharatarshabha. 4 kinds of virtuous men worship me, O Arjuna: the dissatisfied, the seeker of systemized knowledge, the seeker of wealth, and the wise, O best among the Bharatas.
Now, this is interesting. What Krishna is saying is most of us come to God with impure motives. I was listening to a priest give a sermon on the story of the prodigal son from the Christian Bible. And the prodigal son says to his father, I want my inheritance and I'm going to leave home. And he goes off to a foreign land and he dissipates himself and squanders his inheritance. Then when he's sitting on a dung heap, he says, even the best of my father's servants has it, or the worst of my, least of my father's servants has it better than I think I'll head on home. So notice his motive is very impure. So most of us turn to God with selfish motives. And here Krishna puts forward 3 that are pretty selfish and then a 4th. So what's the first one, Deepa, again?
The dissatisfied.
Yeah, my life sucks. I don't like it. I'm suffering. I've tried to make it work, and it's not enough. I thought finding a husband was going to do it, and his feet stink. I thought getting this job would do it, and the manager's a jerk. I thought somebody told me, oh, you'll never experience any love greater than children. Oh, God, but when they become teenagers, they're monsters. In the end, none of it satisfies. The world just gets too little. Then we turn to God. Nothing wrong with this. Second reason. Deepa, what was the second one?
The seeker of systemized knowledge.
Yes. So these are people who have a philosophical train of mind. And they want to figure it out. They've read books and books and books and books. They've gone to lectures and satsangs and they listen to YouTube. They think that somehow if I figure it out, they wrestle with these philosophies, is the material world real or not? Can science explain spirituality, or their theology people? Do you have a high Christology or a low Christology? Chapter and verse and all this sort of stuff. Nothing wrong with this. These are people who yearn to know the truth. And they think it's figure-outable. No problem. In many ways, Advaita Vedanta, our path, Jnana Yoga, is designed for people like that. It is a non-intellectual path for intellectuals. We teach you a way of thinking that gets you out of your thinking. But it's not for everybody. And the third way?
The seeker of wealth.
Yes. So I don't have enough. So I'm going to learn various pujas and rituals. In many ways, a lot of the Raja yogis fall into this path. Actually, many of the people who are attracted to Raja Yoga, and I would say Kriya Yoga is one of those, are people who are attracted to siddhis. Siddhis means powers. Oh, I want to be able to levitate and fly through the air. I want to raise my kundalini. I want to be clairvoyant. I want to learn how to do astrology or tarot. Nothing wrong with this. But many people enter the spiritual life because they want to acquire something, a skill or a power. It's not just money here when we say artha. Well, there are yogas for people with those particular proclivities. And then the fourth, the wise. And these are people who want peace. What is it that will bring real peace to the human mind?
Discrimination. Discrimination.
Discrimination? Yeah. So, all of these are okay. God doesn't care what our motivation is. God doesn't even care if the reason you do yoga, because if you're a yogi or a yogini, then you feel important. It's okay. Or if I'm holy, maybe then people will love me. I want to be important. I want to be like the saints. God doesn't care. Whatever turns our mind towards the infinite is good enough. All right, next verse.
Jim, there's one more category. It's the wise.
Well, that was the wise, the ones I said at the end.
Okay.
All right, next one. He says the wise are most dear. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No worries. Tesham jnani nityuktah ekabhaktirvishishyate yo hi jnaninotyartha maham sacha mama priya. Of them, the wise, ever steadfast and devoted to the One, excels. For I am exceedingly dear to the wise, and he is dear to me.
So the jnani is the word Krishna is using. The person of wisdom means the realized person. The person who knows I am Atma Brahma, this self is Brahma. Not just indirectly, but as a direct experience. Who's not only a full knower of the Supreme, but who has retired into the Supreme. Meaning the mind no longer extroverts into the world. So the self is most dear to that person. And here doesn't mean that Krishna has favorites, but it means this person experiences the riotous revelry in the self. Again, we can go back to the second chapter. Last 18 verses are the Sthita Prajna Purusha section, the marks of the person of steady wisdom. Verse 54, Arjuna says, what's the person like? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they sit? Verse 55 starts the list. And Krishna says, when a person gives up all the desires of the mind, O Partha, that's all good, and is satisfied in the self, by the self. Then they're said to be a person in steady wisdom. All right, I think this is a good place to stop. What number are we on, Deepa?
T.
We'll start with 18 next week.
18 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all, and thank you, Deepa ji, for chanting.
Thank you, Jim. Good night.
Thank you,